Brett, I guess on form it's a game you should win, but how much have you sort of focused on last time you played the Bulldogs, and I guess it was a nightmare day for you, really?
Yeah, fair bit. We got comprehensively beaten around the ball and around the contest, so it's that's still a strength of the Bulldogs. They've still got players of the quality of Boyd and Griffin and Liberatore and the good St Kevin's College boy Mitch Wallace. So they've got some good players in there who can win the ball. So we'll have to be all over that and make sure our ball winners get to the ball first.
For whatever reason, some teams just match up well against others. Does it make you a bit more wary that they did do so well last time?
No more so wary than we would be anyway. I think, you look at the key indicators last time. Matty Boyd ran around and had 44 possessions, and Tory Dixon slipped under our guard and kicked 4. And so, I suppose it's once bitten, twice shy a little bit. But their quality's still there. So we're a very different team than the last game we played. But it's just, if anything, sharpened our focus a little bit on what they're very good at.
As you say, the Kangas have improved since then, but with the benefit of hindsight, is there anyone in those Dogs players that perhaps you didn't put enough individual defensive pressure on that you can change this time?
Oh yeah, like I think, as I mentioned, Tory Dixon was probably one that slipped under our guard, but the combination of Boyd and Griffin really got on top of our guys. So we certainly had roles for those two last time as well. They just didn't work as well as we had planned. So we'll tighten that up, and we'll make sure that what we tried last time, because it didn't work, we'll try something different. But we don't want to go away too much from the way we've been playing, because it's been pretty successful for us over the last couple of months. But we need to find that balance between nullifying their good players and making sure our good players play well.
As you mentioned, you have had a couple of good months, but you need to keep that going for 4 or 5 weeks, and there's not much margin for error. Are you confident with a young group you can stay up for another 4 or 5 weeks at least? Well,
time will tell. I mean, all the evidence we've got from the training track has been really positive. So the guys are been training really well with great enthusiasm. So, but we're acutely aware of where the season's at, and I mentioned last week against Melbourne that the ladder was a very good indicator for us that there's no room for complacency whatsoever, and we're nowhere near at the stage that some other sides are in the competition where we can start thinking about getting complacent. I mean, we've had a couple of good months, but we played some pretty ordinary footy before that too. So, we've got to make sure we keep the momentum going that we've got.
It was last week, I think, but Andrew Swallow re-signing, is that a good show of faith in the club?
Yeah, I don't think it's just Andrew. I think we've got a pretty good record of keeping our players, and you speak to the players themselves, and I think they'll tell you that it's that this is a good place to be at the moment. There's a great feeling and great camaraderie amongst the players, and they're a very resilient group of players, and they've got a great resolve to make sure that we keep working on parts of our game that need work, and they're looking forward to challenging themselves against the best side. So, to do that, we're going to need to keep our playing group together, like every side needs to do that. So when your captain's leading from the front, it's a great example.
What about Burma? I know he does it year by year when he's 58 years old or whatever it is, but would you like to see that get done now? He's in good enough form to warrant another extension?
No, I think there's no rush. And we've proven that in the past. That I think sometimes you guys think that we're just paying lip service to these things, that there's no rush, but the last 5 years we've done it at the end of the year, so I don't see any reason to change that. Playing terrific footy, but that's another reason not to go away from what we've been doing.
Just, I know they're totally different incidents, but was there any eyebrows raised when Scott Thompson was cleared on Monday compared to what happened with Jack?
Look, my attitude was 2 wrongs don't make a right. So I thought the correct decision was made, and I was rapt to see Scott Thompson get the verdict that I think most people thought he should have got. And it was an innocuous incident. There wasn't any malice. There wasn't any intent to deliberately bump the opposition player in the head. So, Steve Johnson, whether he plays this week or not, it's an unfortunate incident. So, we're not disappointed that he didn't get suspended. We're actually, as a club, we're actually pleased that the right decision was made.
So you think that incident really now should be more of the precedent than what happened to Jack?
Well, I think I said when Jack was suspended, I said I hope this doesn't set a really disappointing precedent, for our game. I'm just very thankful that Joel Corey touched Scott Thompson because it gave the match review penalty out they needed. I would have loved to have seen the decision had Joel Corey not touched him. You know, that's going to be the contentious one in the future.
You think the decision might have been different?
Oh, I think that's the act they used. Joel Corey pushed him.
Do you think that was the reason for the contact?
Do you?
No, I think it was a pure accident. That's what they should have deemed it as.
Correct. Well, I think it was a pure accident. But the way the rules are written at the moment, we need to have a really strong look at the end of the year because, you know, these players have, you know, you're talking about hundreds, thousands of a second to make decisions as to whether, you know, they can pull out of a contest. And, you know, we certainly, as an industry, we pillory players who pull out of contests. So, you know, we need to have a look at the rules regarding head-high contact and accept that, you know, while we need to take out off-the-ball incidents, we need to load up heavily against players who make the player their sole objective and choose to bump. If they take them high, then they should suffer the full consequences. But innocuous accidental incidents are going to happen in a full contact sport. So we need to make sure that we're not losing our good players through innocuous accidental incidents.
And have you talked to the AFL about them specifically looking at that at the end of the year? Or when they talk to you about what you said, have they mentioned that they're going to look at the situation at the end of the year?
I hope they do that off their own bat, but the AFL are really good with their consultation process, and so we'll go through the formal channels to make sure that when we're consulted on those rules, we put forward what we believe is in the best interest of the game. But I think it's not simply going to be what North Melbourne says. It'll be a groundswell of public opinion and a groundswell of opinions from the AFL clubs, because after all, the AFL clubs appoint the commissioners and the commissioners appoint the executive. So, you know, I think the clubs have got to have a fair voice to make sure that the game's being played the way they think it should be played.
And just quickly back to the game on the weekend, I mean, I think you're averaging probably up near the top end of scores for and then down the ladder for scores against. Is it more important to keep this for you guys to keep your good attacking play, or is it more important to focus on lifting your defence?
No, I think good teams have a balance of both. You're spot on with the numbers across the whole year, but you know, we had some patches where we played some pretty terrible footy, and you take out some anomalies of some big losses. You know, our defensive side of our game looks okay. So, but when you look at it across the season, you're right, the numbers don't look great. But over the last couple of months, they look pretty good. So we've just got to keep playing the footy we've been playing against some pretty good opposition over the last 2 weeks, 2 months.
What have you made of the suggestion of bringing in a lottery to wipe out any talk of potential tanking?
I think that we have a system that I think now it really works. You know, I noticed that people aren't talking about tanking this year. They're talking about tanking a long time ago. And I think there was, I think Damien Hardwick hit the nail on the head. There was a genuine incentive to lose. You know, and that incentive was the priority pick system. So, you know, when you're talking about getting an early draft pick, a top 5 pick, and then getting another one on top of that, I mean, that's incentivising losing. Now we have a system where you know, the draft order is in reverse ladder order, exactly as it should be. I think that Andrew Demetrio is correct. If you think that deliberately losing is going to help you in the future, then I think you're a little bit delusional. And you know, we're speaking as a club that has never had a priority pick. We've always you know, held up our culture, and we think we have a revered culture, and it's a culture that we'll protect at all costs. So, you know, for us, the loss of a potential priority pick in the past, you know, is greatly outweighed by, you know, what we think is an outstanding culture and a culture of fighting to the bitter end.
Andrew also made it clear last night there's no point having a moratorium if they did find a club was doing this, that they need to be punished. What sort of punishment should there be if a club is found guilty of this?
Well, first of all, how are you ever going to find a club guilty? I mean, I'm just staggered as to how that, unless a club comes out and says, yes, we deliberately lost. And even then, the players didn't deliberately lose. So I don't know how you prove this. I'd be a fascinated fly on the wall in the interrogation of how can you find out whether a club deliberately decided to lose. I'm staggered as to how they're ever going to come to a conclusion unless someone wants to come out and categorically say that they told their players to lose and the players followed that instruction. So I think it's a moot point. I think we're talking about something that existed in the past. I don't think it exists now. So I don't see what the issue is, to be honest.
I'll just ask you one more on the last time you met the Bulldogs. So much has changed. Is it almost irrelevant now? How relevant is that last game?
Oh no, it's relevant because their good players got on top of us around the ball, and we were very reactive to what they were doing. So and they're capable of doing that again. So I mentioned Boyd and Griffin; they're fantastic players, and we just can't let them dictate terms to us. And it'll be a big job for our midfielders, as it is most weeks, because our forwards have been getting on top of their opposition. But if we don't give them enough supply in there, then Lake and these guys are going to have a field day. So we've got to make sure we get on top in and around the contest.
Just looking at your side at the moment, if Petrie, Tarrant, Hansen, Goldstein are all playing well, is there a spot for Hamish?
Oh yeah, I think that we've often said that Hansen and Tarrant in particular are key position players. So we think they're talented enough to play on our side. But we're not pigeonholing Lockie or Robbie as definite forwards. While they've been playing there, we think they can go back as well. So flexibility is what we're looking for with our side, and if we get them all up and going and they're playing well enough, that's the key. I've always said that there's a spot for them all if they're playing well. But what it gives us at the moment is the opportunity to play players in form, because Pedersen, Black, Edwards, McKinley, Warren, they're in really good form, playing good footy, but just can't get a spot at the moment.
How's Drew Petrie? How's his body going?
Yeah, going really well. I think his form over the last couple of weeks suggests that he's in good nick.